Garden, and welcome to Character Corner. I'm Avalon Roselin, indie author, and your magical cat fan for the evening, who does have a slight cold, so apologies for my vocal performance today. Not too long ago, Snapdragon released a new lore video for the Alliance Saga regarding the magic system. I'll have it linked below if you want to check it out. In this video, she talked a bit about the designs and motifs that are associated with each type of magic, and I decided I wanted to have a go at designing some different magical kitties based on these motifs. I hosted a poll in my Discord server, which you can get access to by supporting me on Ko-fi or Patreon. I knew I definitely wanted to design a cat for fire magic, but the other three were left up to supporter votes. Plant and luck were the top choices, followed by a tie between storm, spirit, and earth, so I chose earth. I tried to study up on Snapdragon and Tennelle's character design aesthetics, and used reference images of real cats as the basis for these drawings. One thing I've always admired about Snap's art is how she has such a sense of anatomy, even being able to draw actual skeletons underneath her artwork. When we worked together to make the Peach Tarot card, a project I do hope to get back to someday, she walked me through this process, and it was really cool to see. So I hope that practicing with more realistic cat references will help me push certain aspects for character design in the future. But back to our fire mage here. It's no secret that I love multicolored coats like those found in tortoiseshells and calicos, and combining those with tabby markings to make tabbycos and torbies. For a fire mage, I thought a mix of red, orange, and gray tones would work well to symbolize both the burning fire and the ash and smoke that it leaves behind. The magic system used in the Alliance Saga is a soft system. Soft magic systems are more malleable and open than hard systems, which have strict and clearly defined rules. We wanted to be able to play with this concept in any way we pleased, and for fans to have the freedom to interpret and use it however they like too. So this fire mage has the power to light up their claws. Maybe if they have some tinder or something, they could start a fire, but they aren't a full-on pyromancer who can then control that fire. I imagine they have to be very careful about what they use for scratching posts. This project is ultimately just us being big nerds about magical cats and having fun with an old RP. While it is great that so many people have shown their love for this project, we would be doing the exact same stuff if we had an audience of 10 or 10,000. A fact I sometimes need to remind myself of. Recently, I went through a pretty rough time mental health-wise. As some of you might be aware, there were some things said about Tennelle and Snap and anyone even mildly associated with them over on Twitter. So you can imagine I received quite a few comments that were, frankly, queerphobic, ableist, and straight-up harassment. Not all of them, but the majority. My response to this was to, in old internet terms, not feed the trolls. I've been through this kind of thing before, and I know that anything I say can and will be used against me in the court of public opinion. Eventually, seeing these messages over and over does wear a person down. So here's my side of things as someone only tangentially connected to this issue at most. I have never spoken to Sagatoyas, I do not know her, we are not friends. But I know Tennelle and Snap. When I saw that they were following Sagatoyas and that Snap had welcomed her back, I had some concerns. So I talked to them about it privately. They shared their reasoning with me, which is essentially what went into the statement to the CarlottaStudios patrons that got posted publicly. They know Sagatoyas did wrong, they have never said otherwise, but they believe Sagatoyas can do better, and they were keeping an eye on her. At no time did Tennelle or Snap ever say other people should forgive her or follow her. At no time did they call on anyone to interact with her. Tennelle never even spoke to her at all, and he encouraged people to block her if her past actions made them uncomfortable, which I did. That is the extent of my involvement in any of this. Talking to my friends about a situation that bothered me, and blocking Sagatoyas as a result. And I suppose banning someone who publicly stated they planned on posting private content from the patron Discord server which is standard practice in any patron-exclusive space, regardless of what the content was. I have no delusion that this is going to make the harassment stop. People who can justify sending the kinds of messages I've received to anyone for any reason are not interested in conflict resolution. There is nothing I could say or do that would satisfy the vast majority of these people. I'm not involved in this situation at all, and yet I am still a worthy target in their eyes. So I'm moving on now. I've said all that I have to say about this, and I'm not going to engage in discussion about it in the comments. Back to the art on screen. Next up is the plant mage. I find it fun how similar the tabby stripe shapes between plant and fire are when actually applied to a cat design. In my mind, these two things are connected. Plants are often fuel for fires, and there are some plants that only release their seeds when exposed to the high-intensity heat of a fire. Forest fires cause immense amounts of damage, but they also clear the way for new life to grow. So maybe this particular plant mage visits areas where there has recently been a fire and coaxes the new growth to poke through the ashes. I should mention that none of these cats that I'm drawing are characters in the Alliance Saga. This video is purely me playing with designs. Please feel free to come up with your own names and backstories for these cats and leave them in the comments. I'd love to read your ideas, and feel free to use these designs too. Moving on, we have a luck mage. Luck is one of those elements that really exemplifies that this is a soft magic system, because what even is luck magic? Just being lucky? Being persuasive? I can't help but think of luck magic as something that would be tied to the charisma stat in Dungeons & Dragons, which makes me think of a kitty bard. Cats in the Alliance Saga haven't developed the technology required to make musical instruments yet. So what would a cat bard be like in the current setting? Maybe a traveling storyteller who always manages to find a group of cats willing to shelter and feed them in exchange for a few tales. That was kind of the idea I had in mind when designing this one. There aren't as many large markings because I think the more you talk about luck, the less luck you have. So the motifs and symbols of luck magic would be a little more subtle. Lastly, my choice between the three tied magical elements, Earth. I love Earth magic. For no particular reason that you should be concerned about, certainly. Definitely nothing to do with future plans for the series and which cats I might be in charge of designing. Nope. I love this geometric pattern that still feels so natural. It reminds me of bismuth and other minerals that sometimes form in these very straight, angular shapes. A lot of the time, the natural world uses curved lines and soft, rounded edges, so this juxtaposition of design elements is immediately interesting to me. I also can't help but be drawn to Earth Magic's defensive capabilities, hardening a cat's skin and fur, or letting them sink into the mud to hide without suffocating, or having an innate sense for navigating tunnels to escape an enemy. And this is what I love about this magic system. If you can imagine it, there's probably some combination of magic that can make it possible. So tell whatever story you want to tell. I wanted to divert from the typical browns that are probably associated with Earth and instead go for bright color splotches that are seen in some stones. And within those spots, you can see those geometric lines like bands on an agate. And that's all for this time. I didn't want this to be a huge video, so I limited myself to just 4 elements of magic this time. Maybe I'll do 4 more in a future video. Which ones would you want to see, and what kind of characters would you make out of these designs? Leave a comment below to let me know, and keep growing until next time, Rose Garden.